Ray, how you doing? All right, I'd like to call the Sunapee School District School Board meeting to order on Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, exactly 6 p.m. in the Sunapee Middle High School gym. I'm going to start with a roll call. Kelly, you want to kick off the wave?
Russ Holman, Superintendent.
Jesse Tyler, School Board.
Scott Ritzman, School Board.
Andy Nichols, School Board.
Karen McCall, School Board.
Ed Anderson, School Board.
Walter Houston, Principal of Sunapee Central Elementary School.
Terry Gear, Director of Student Services. Megan Reed, Assistant Principal, Sunapee Middle High School.
Sean Moynihan, Principal, Sunapee Middle High School. Cameron Messenger, Student Representative.
Thank you very much. If anyone doesn't recognize that noise, if your windows aren't up, you might want to run out and do that now. Another minute or two, it won't be worth even doing so. You could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to jump right into the action with, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the August 18th school board meeting, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 18, 2021 school board meeting.
I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. For comment, any comments, corrections? How are we feeling?
I guess I have one correction. One quick question. So on page 4, just in regard to my comments related to athletics, I did not make any reference to mask protocols. What I did say was that, I was hoping that the administration would maintain a strong line of communication with the other school districts as they did last year, so that if there were an outbreak that day in the school or a number of kids were sent home from the team or whatnot, we could, cancel the game if we had to. So
Okay.
I think that we did a really good job of that last year.
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay. Anything else?
just in regard to the policies coming out, because we had the difficult communication last time. That's coming up in the fall, right, Russ?
So it's actually on my part of my agenda. We have not received the update yet. As soon as we do, we'll schedule a meeting.
Perfect.
So clarification, not a change?
Not a change, just because of the...
Okay, so we're looking to correct on page 4 the mask protocol as part of the sentence, a third of the way up on page 4, to the strong communication with other districts to manage any potential outbreaks. Along those lines, I think probably got it word for word. Okay. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes as revised, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion for approve the CIP meeting minutes on August 30th, 2021, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the CIP meeting minutes, August 30, 2021.
I'll second.
Second by Carrie. Any comment, addition, correction? All in favor of approving the CIP minutes as noted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, with a hand wave for folks at home, people who watch this. Agenda review. We're going to add 2 things under information. We're going to talk about the Advisory Budget Committee. We made some changes this year. We'll get an update on that. And going to add an overview of collective bargaining and the policy process that Sunapee uses. This is a contract negotiations year. I think it'd be helpful. A citizen asked for an overview. I thought that was a great nudge, so we'll have that in information. Anything else you want to add? Public forum. This is our opportunity to hear from the public. The intent is to hear on decisions that the school board has made or items relevant to the agenda. You have 3 minutes each. Identify yourself, full name and address, please. Jen Betancourt, waves first.
Thank you. Jen Betancourt, I did send an email to the school board and to Russ is copying the school board, with some concerns that I have. I hope that Russ will be responding to my right to know. But also, I've had many comments from other people about the transparency and about how difficult it is to hear the school board. Some of you are not as loud as others. Additional noise makes it very difficult. The actual videos are really hard to listen to. Russ referred me to the minutes and referred me to the video. The minutes, I don't know if you've all seen the minutes that are put out by the planning board or the select board. They are verbatim, and they allow people who may not have attended the meeting to actually know what's going on. That's transparency. And I would love to see, it's the new year, I would love to see more transparency. You had an offer to buy someone in a very generous taxpayer offer to buy hotel nights, which would make it really a lot better to hear all of you. And I think that if we're going to come, I know after the meeting, someone will say, well, did you hear that? Or what did they actually say? I'm not that, my hearing isn't that great. I didn't hear that much. The selectmen offers a meeting on Zoom. I'd love to have, for those people, moms and dads who can't get here at 6 o'clock, I'd love to have the option. So if you are really concerned about transparency, please consider these options that would show that you do care about the transparency. Thank you.
Thanks for being here and sharing your opinion. John Augustine was next, and then for you.
John Augustine, Stagecoach Road and Sunday. Just hoping we'll hear about enrollment tonight. That's an important topic, especially if you're considering future plans for the square footage of the building or buildings, plural. Separate but related. Sunday town clerk at Town Hall tracks births in Sunday. So I sent an email and asked how many children were born in Sunday between January 1st and August 31st. And that number is 7. So if you project that number forward, that will give you somewhere between 10, 11, 12 students, children born in Sunday this year. If you project that number forward 5 years or so, that's your starting class in the public school system here, assuming they all go to public schools. Some may not, some may homeschool, some may go to private school. So I would just encourage you to get that birth rate information to your contacts at NESDEC or whoever's making your enrollment projections going forward. The question was asked at the deliberative session what the enrollment projections were 5 years down the road. The superintendent rattled off numbers that had 30 students in every grade in the future, but I'm not aware of anybody that I talked to who believes there's going to be 30 students in the grades 5 years from now, 6 and 7, 8 and 10, given the birth rate, given the housing situation in Sunapee. So there's been mention of the word misinformation by the superintendent, by others at some of these meetings. But misinformation is if you lead people to believe there's going to be 30 students in a grade 5 years from now, and base square footage decisions based on that. So I think going forward, we should use the facts available to us. Try to get some accurate enrollment projections for what's going to look like in 5 years, and 7, 10, 15 years down the road.
Thanks for being here, sharing your opinion. Please.
My name is Laura Diaz. I live on North Road. I'm a mother of a first grader, and I have the strong desire to be a part of her education, including learning about the curriculum and being aware of what she's learning. Obviously, talking to a 6-year-old about this is not the best way to learn about it. That's why I decided it's important for me to come to these meetings. I want to echo a lot of what Jan said. I had written down some comments I was going to speak about, and I also agree that it's very, very difficult to hear, especially when it's raining. I had a very hard time hearing Russ last week because of the Zoom with the audible over the speaker. So I was hoping that maybe microphones could be considered, because if we're going to come and we can't hear, it's kind of pointless. I also have talked to other parents, and they kind of share the concern that they'd like to be coming to the meetings, but the timing is very difficult. I don't know if there's any opportunity for changing, not at dinner time. It's really hard when you get home from work and you have to make dinner for your kids, and I also have a baby at home, so I have to get him to bed at 7, so it's really hard for me to be able to come to these meetings. So I was wondering if we can consider changing the time at some point. And because I'm new to these meetings, I see the public participation is outlined here, and it seems like we can have public comment, but there's no opportunity for having a dialogue. It would be helpful if we could have the opportunity to speak back and forth and have questions asked and answered. I have tried doing emails with you guys, and I get responses, which I thank you for, but being a busy mom and having my job and having these emails come back and forth, it's really hard to keep up with them. And email is not an ideal form of communication, so I don't know if maybe this is not the setting, but if we do have the availability to the school board or administration to actually speak back and forth in person, that would definitely be a preference. So those are my comments, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks for being here and sharing your voice. Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Michael Haxton. Jesse, I just came from Dartmouth. I have great hearing. I had 2 days of hearing tests, and I asked the doctor to send that to my wife so she would know. I am having a hard time hearing in here. I was the person who volunteered to buy the lapel mics. It's still on the table. It's fine we're in that music room because it's not as big, but if we're going to continue to do this, I will put the money up to do it. You guys go get your mics so we can hear what's being said in these meetings.
Thank you. Other voices? Josh, please.
Josh Trail, West Court Road. Just as a quick clarification note, select board minutes are not verbatim. They are as detailed as reasonable, but planning and zoning, I believe, maybe has particularly for legal purposes, because they get sued more than anything else. But the select board minutes are not verbatim. We're trying to get the gist across without having to tell people to wade through 400 pages of minutes. So just as a clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, please.
Yeah, but it's 64 Pioneer Road. I'll just echo what Josh said and share that also the library trustee minutes are also not verbatim.
But the planning board is.
Okay, that's what public comment is for. I appreciate it. Well, because we're at the start of a new year, I'm just going to make a statement relating to contact with the board, because I think it's informative for you in your presence on a rainy night, but I think it's better for the broader community to sort of remind everybody as we start the year. The school board is a school board meeting that takes place in public, and so we have to have guidelines and statutes for us to be able to function and do our work. We can't meet at another time with more than 2 of us, or it's a meeting. We can't have an email with more than 2 of us on it, or it's a meeting. And we try really hard as a board. I will say as the chair, we try to adhere to all rules at all times. Most people aren't comfortable coming into public, and the time of day is a challenge for all of us, especially once work and family and everything else. So we used to actually start at 7 o'clock at night. 6 has helped for some feedback that we meet at 6. But the ways for everybody to consider when they want to know more about the school is start with the teachers, start with your students' teachers. For folks that don't have a student in the schools, reach out to the principals. You can reach out to the superintendent anytime, set up a meeting, be able to meet with them, ask your questions. For most people, that is much more comfortable. I do public speaking and do all kinds of training at work, and still, I just saw it the other day, people fear public speaking more than death still, the average adult. So beyond the format of this meeting, please email, ask board members for time to talk. But the best way to go through is to start with, in your case specifically, your parent, your child's teachers, then the vice principal, principal, and then the superintendent. So I hope that's helpful for the community as we start the year as that reminder, because you have questions, you should be able to get answers, and a meeting like this where we went through a lot of work to have public comment. Not all boards do that. It's important to us. It's not necessarily the most natural environment for a lot of people, and we know that, but we want to try to do our service to the community. So I hope that's sort of, as a community message, helpful and productive. School updates. We want to hear from Mr. Houston first, please.
We've had a very festive start to our school year. Last Thursday night, we had our back to school night. We had well over 300 people in attendance between students and families. The Hill was populated. We want to thank Abbott Library, Sunapee Recreation, and the Sunapee Police Department. They were there. Abbott Library got to, I think they did 15 library cards that night. Signed up.
50.
Oh, 50. Okay, I thought it was 15, so 50. That's even better than I thought. Sunapee Rec was there to get people signed up for fall activities and to get their information out. Sunapee Police were there to help with fingerprinting, because part of the law is every 3 years we have to do background checks on anyone who wants to volunteer. And so it was easy just to having them there, and people signed up to do that. So it was a great night. And then everyone left about 7:30 that night and then came back to school 12 hours later and sat through a 6-hour math training. So we have incredible teachers who have done an incredible job opening up our school this year. And then not only did they do that, but then Sunday they came in and made this beautiful balloon arch that's over the front door of the school. And so it became this very festive time to have the children arrive. So it's been a very busy 2 weeks, and it's a good start to our year.
Thanks. I was getting gas coming home from work, and it was just unbelievable, the cars everywhere. I was used to seeing I lived behind the school and seeing the parking lot full of boat trailers, which is great to see people coming and spending money in Sunapee. It was kind of wild. I laughed looking up, like wherever you could put a car, it was rocking. It was awesome. And the PTO said they were really appreciative and excited about, and several residents said they wanted me to mention how they appreciated you and everything your team did, the police, the library, everything. There's a lot of really positive vibes. So.
And we're already planning for next year, so.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Next up, middle high school, please.
To echo Mr. Houston, a very smooth opening. I think students were very excited to be in person. We certainly were last year. As everybody knows, we're mask optional this year. Different people feel different ways on that, but I think our kids were excited to have that option and to see their smiling faces again. So the first couple days have gone pretty darn smoothly. A couple hiccups. We do have some students who take VLAX courses, and VLAX changed part of their providers this summer, so I'm kind of a stickler. I like the kids to come in day one and be able to sit down and be on their course, and that hasn't been the case this year. So we're a little bit delayed. Anybody taking a VLAX class, for the most part, is delayed probably a week or so before they can take the class, but I'm pretty confident the students will be able to make that adjustment. We usually start the first day of school with a number of activities outdoors, and we did not do that this year. We made that decision intentionally, wanting to get a safe start to the school year and just see how we would be maneuvering in the halls and back to normal size classes and things along those lines. Just like last year, the kids are great. Probably haven't seen it anymore in the fun that they have had in calling me Nurse Moynihan for a couple of days. That will not be long lasting, but some teachers have had some fun with it. Some parents have had some fun with it. But the kids, as is typical, have been great with it. They've been conscientious of some of my time demands and have been great in just interacting with me. And so our kids have a great nature of going with the flow and thinking of other people and making things go smoothly, and this is not an exception. So students have done a great job this year, and I think everybody's happy to have a more normal year. We're hoping that that's the case, but really excited for the school year.
That's great. And just for context, for anybody who's listening, our first meeting and wasn't aware of, we'll get an update on the nurse, but just so everyone understands that New Hampshire does not require a nurse in schools. The duties at schools that don't have nurses, or between nurses, those duties follow the principal in the building. So that was the reference, if it helps people at all. But we'll get an update from Mr. Holden shortly. We have a
question.
What's that?
I just had a quick question.
Sure thing.
Are we going to revisit this year the night that the parents come in and follow the schedule of their student?
I'm sorry, I actually had that on there and skipped over. So we're having open house this year. We're going to do it similar to how we would have done it, not last year, in previous years. We'll probably send that out early next week, the date, but it's going to be early September, and we will go back to September 16th.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
You know, speaking to, you know, the comment earlier, that's a great opportunity for the parents to come in and follow their schedule for the day, and just, you know, get to spend a few minutes with each teacher, you know, one-on-one and as a group, so.
Absolutely. So
I
we will
look
be doing
forward
that.
to that.
And I think everybody missed that. I know the
Yeah.
teachers missed it. I know the parents missed it. So we will be doing that September
Thanks.
16th. Same format of 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Thanks, Mr. Ritzman.
Anything else from Megan or Tara? All set. All right, so we have our, excited to have Cameron Messenger as our student representative. So he brings the voice of the students. So some of his updates may be lengthy and some of them may be short. I'm going to make it easier for you that he has a serious amount of homework in his advanced classes. So as soon as he's done, he's going to respectfully say goodnight and scoot, because we would rather have him doing that than sitting through the meeting. Floor is yours. Share some insights of how the students are doing, how opening went, please.
All right, thank you for having me. This is mostly echoing what Mr. Moynihan has said. From the student perspective, the school opening has been going very well and very smoothly. We are all very glad to be back and not have to worry so much about our scheduling and any other mishaps that might have been caused through COVID. It is still in the back of our minds, and we are still being very cautious about it. The sports are starting up, and that has been a great opportunity for multiple students. These clubs are all starting, and they are being announced over the intercoms, and many students have been involved or planning to be involved in these clubs. Student council is starting up, so that way we can plan most of our school year and any events. And the class elections are coming up very shortly as well. We are happy to be back to more of a normal school environment. In the mornings, we are able to talk with our friends, and every morning in the gym we have some activities to get students moving and just to be ready for a school day, and we are glad to have those opportunities be back. The masks being optional this year have been great for multiple students. I have heard from many of my close friends that it is a relief to have that option, and I have also heard from other students that they prefer to have the mask on and they are just glad to have the option. And at this point, students are just getting settled into their classes and getting ready for their school year. Any last minute schedule changes, they're getting those all sorted out, and we are just settling in for another great school year to come.
Awesome. Just so that we're clear on this, because there's no one else listening, that's exactly what the board is looking for from you. So you're one for one. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Feel free to excuse yourself for the need of homework.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome to have a student voice again. Thank you, Mr. Moynihan, for lining that up, and an excellent choice. Superintendent update. Please, sir.
Thank you, Jess. First, I understand there were some difficulties with the audio last month, and apologize for that, a little bit out of my control, but I do thank the board for giving me the opportunity to do that meeting remotely. It meant a lot to me and my family to have some of that time, so greatly appreciate it, but do apologize for a little bit of the lack of understanding, I guess, that was going on here. I can tell you on my end, it was very difficult as well. I kind of felt like I was sitting alone in the dark a couple of times. Some sad news that I want to start with, and knowing that we had difficulties last month, I did not bring it up, but in July, Dick Leone, a teacher, an IA teacher here, a longtime teacher here, driver's ed teacher, eventually was a principal at the middle high school, was a selectman in town, was a very influential person and a member of the community, passed away in July. And I just think it's important that, someone who has done a lot for this community, has been out of this community now for a while, but still kept the finger on things, was emailing back and forth with Kathy. I just wanted to mention that, his passing, and just thank him and his family for everything that he did for the time he was in Sunapee. So sad that he is gone, but he definitely left a memory and a mark here with the community. Other things on the plate. Department of Health and Human Services. I'm very familiar with their website. I'm attentive to it daily. I'm continue to look at our vaccination rate. Fully dosed at 62%. Single dose in our town are 66%. 62% in our town. Fully vaccinated 66% with one vaccination. Our information is suppressed, which means we're somewhere either no active cases or between 1 and 4. I know there are some neighboring communities that are a concern right now that we keep an eye on. Scott, your reference to the NHIAA scheduling protocols in place from last year and making sure that having communication with those schools is going to be very important moving forward. We do have a full schedule this year. It is not a regional schedule, but a full schedule. We are paying really close attention to the Department of Health and Human Services activity, cases per 100,000, new cases, and again, vaccinations. Right now, as I said, Sunapee is doing well. We're starting to collect data on voluntary data from our families on students that had an opportunity to be vaccinated, if they like to give us that information, and also on our faculty. That will help us moving forward, being able to make decisions, and also being able to look at if we come to a place where we have to do close contact again, or contact tracing, more availability to do that, and understanding when people have to be in and have to be out. Some good news, because I think it's important to have some good news as well. Jack Capito will be recognized in September for 25 years of coaching with the NHIAA. And so we're really happy with Jack. I have a letter that's going out to him. He'll be recognized in the ceremony. I believe it's in Concord or Bedford, but we'll be recognized in the ceremony. And we're really happy that Jack continues to coach for us both in boys soccer and in skiing. There is a letter on your table. Late June, I was approached by Maggie Hassan, Senator Hassan. Folks remember back when we were held for ransom, our technology, our data was held for ransom. We went through that. She participated with us at that point in time, did what she could to lend a hand here. She is the chair of the Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Spending Oversight, and she asked me if I would testify in front of the U.S. Senate. I said yes, and then panicked for 2 weeks after saying yes on what I just got myself into. It was just a wonderful opportunity as a superintendent to sit with judges and mayors and folks from different counties around the country and hear the testimony and watch the process. And there we were, represented as little old Sunapee, 3,000 people, 430 kids, at the table speaking with senators and telling them about what it is that we could use as a small school district, but also our story. And so this is a letter there from her thanking me. And she did ask me to come back last week to St. Anselm's and talk again, but we were opening that day, so I had to pass on that opportunity. But it's nice to know that she's still connected with us and still pushing on a national level to really work to help look at cyber threats and cybersecurity for not just the federal government, but for all municipalities.
Yeah, it's a very thankful personal note from her, so thanks for representing us.
And I was contacted by Adam Jones. He is the vice chair of the Andover School Board. Andover currently right now has a tuition agreement with Merrimack Valley. He would like to talk about potential some sort of tuitioning process with Sunapee. I will have I think we have something set up for next week. We'll have an initial meeting. I'll feel him out, see what he's looking for, and bring back information back to the board at that time.
Great.
Scott, I mentioned the policy update, so that will be coming in hopefully September-ish, mid-September. As soon as that happens, we'll make all that happen. And I think I'll save a little bit more for the opening day comments. Actually, you know what I'll say now. We brought in John Wortman. John Wortman is a master of communication, is what he's called, and he presented for a couple hours with the entire district on being sane and becoming saner. And it was great, going through strategies to help us sort of deal with life stresses and understand we all have life stresses and where they come from and why they're not necessarily a bad thing, and how our bodies and our brains are meant to have those systems in place, but how we can sort of self-regulate and self-monitor and then put in strategies to help us deal with things that are very stressful but don't put ourselves in a place where we're just sleeping all the time. Really was well received. We hope to bring John back and have him talk to us a little more about communication skills. John works with pro golfers, Fortune 500 companies. We were very fortunate. John just bought his parents' house up here in Enfield. And so he was down in Connecticut as a golf coach and was stationed down there for a while. Just moved up here, and he is back to New Hampshire and really looking forward to building relationships with some of the school districts in New Hampshire. And so it's nice to have him and welcome him as a neighbor. We had a great opening day, as Sean and Walter said, with staff last week. Great to see everybody back. Great to see sort of that new normal in effect. Some questions, concerns, they're always there. I think Cam said it well. It's sort of in the back of our head. We know it's there, but we want to continue to move forward. Great to see kids on Monday unloading at the elementary school and seeing preschoolers and kindergarten and fifth graders and just kids coming back with big smiles on their faces, some with masks, some without masks. And it just has gone really well. And I credit the administration at both buildings for just making all our students feel welcome on their first few days of school.
Great, thank you. Action items, looking for a motion to approve the proposed SMHS extracurricular coach position. JV volleyball, Alan Piper, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed SMHS extracurricular coach position.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Any comment? It's nice to add another coach to the coaching crew. Thank you for that. All in favor of Alan as the new JV volleyball coach, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. And we're on to information items. We've covered a lot on opening. Do you want to add anything to that?
I just ask again, so we do enrollment on October 1st. That's when it's officially due to the Department of Education, and there's a purpose behind that. As what we find out every day, there are new kids that come, and there are some kids that are supposed to be here that haven't showed up yet, but haven't requested records to go to their new school district if they truly move. Sometimes families might be on vacation or might have forgotten that school started this week, and they come a little late, or maybe show up the second week. But just Walter, in a nutshell, and Sean, roughly how many kids showed up on the first day, if you would?
Pre-K to 5, about 180.
About 180, give or take.
They were about 235, a little smaller this year. Our ins and outs were a little bit up, but we have there's been a small sixth grade class that's gone through, so that class is smaller. Historically smaller, so that's brought the number down. But our ins and outs of the numbers.
Those are very rough numbers. Those are still being flushed out. We had both of your kids come in this morning right off the street, and here we are, and we're ready to start school.
Right.
And Tara, just for a point of reference, our preschool program for 3-4-year-olds, how many kids are currently enrolled in that preschool program?
23 right now. 23.
And did we actually turn some kids away from that program?
We did, yeah.
You did, right?
And we have a wait list. We've been able to include some people that we weren't expecting to be able to include, but we did have to open the afternoon program.
And those aren't all the 3- and 4-year-olds in the town of Somerville. Those are kids that we've identified, and then we pick typical peers, if you would, to come along with them in those classes.
Yes, and just, we also follow the birth records, so we have them for every single year. The years we're talking about right now happen to be bubble years, and you'll see that there's a pretty wide fluctuation year to year. And right now is a pretty big one. We're expecting a very big kindergarten class in the next 2 years.
Thank you. Anything else on opening from anybody, Kelly or Tara? Or?
No, I think it's gone really well.
Yeah.
Tara, where, just so the community understands, with that big group of 23, where are they educated? What location? What space is used?
They're at the Sunapee Central Elementary School. They're in a large classroom that's in the basement of the school.
So is it turning them away a staffing or a space issue?
It's space issues. So a preschool program can only have up to 12 students.
Right.
We're an integrated preschool, so we do hold slots for special ed students. So because as they come in the door, we have to have somewhere to be able to service them. So I think we have 4-year-olds get 5-day-a-week slots, and 3-year-olds get 2-day-a-week slots. And so there's a combination of students depending on how old they are.
So if we had flexible space to absorb them, how long is the wait list? How many more than 23 would we have?
I have to go back and look.
Okay.
We've been able to, like I said, we've been able to add quite a few of them by opening the afternoon.
Okay.
But I'd have to go back and crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
And I also think, Jesse, part of that question, it's not about flexible space, but also that if flexible space was available, we could have universal preschool. So now I'm not talking about picking and choosing and doing a lottery. We're bringing now all our 3 and 4-year-olds in when they become of age, mid-year, whatever that is, into a preschool program.
Yes.
Right. And CFP is going to give an update. I just think where we're talking about, that's a lot.
It is.
You go to a larger area, a different district that's been bigger for 100 years, maybe that's not a lot, but here that's a lot. I think space, safe, available space is highly relevant. So I just want to give a chance to educate the community on that. Thank you for that. You all set? Personnel update, please.
Sure. So we have, we were still looking for some personnel. I can start with the music position. We have a candidate. Her name is Megan Donahue. We have hired her as a long-term sub right now. She'll be starting on Monday. She is in the process. She's a certified music teacher from Massachusetts. She does not hold her certification in New Hampshire. I cannot hire her as an official certified music teacher until she gets that. I can hire her as a long-term sub, and so we have done that. So she has been hired as a long-term sub. If and when she gets her certification, we'll bring her back to you as a certified teacher, and you will appoint her as a certified teacher if that's your will, at a .6 certified teacher for the elementary school music position. We've also hired a .5 para for the elementary school, Carrie Cushion. Did I say that right? Carrie Cushions?
Corey Cushion.
Corey Cushions, thank you. Again, information as far as the para. The nurse, folks know we had a plan in place. Unfortunately, after our school board meeting, literally after our school board meeting last month, we had those people walked away from those positions. We were able to very quickly put some calls out, repost an ad. Right now at Subcommittee Elementary School, we have RN Frances Mulder. Frances was a substitute nurse. She actually worked as a Title I teacher a while ago back here in the district. She worked over at Dartmouth. So she is an RN. She substituted last year when Sarah was out. She was covering the nurse's station 5 days a week at the elementary school. Yesterday we were able to bring on Candy Garwin, also a long-term sub. She was working 2 days a week at Sunapee Middle High School. Sean has done a stellar job as nurse, I must say. Really, his bedside manner is outstanding. I think there's a second career in there somewhere for him. I'm sure he's willing to give up some of his responsibilities. Candy will come in. She starts on Tuesday. She'll be here on Tuesdays and Fridays. Her initial introduction next week will be ensuring that plans are in place and that we have people that are trained to administer medication, and she has signed off on those plans. And so we feel confident that right now the two long-term subs that we have will continue to operate in that capacity. We'll continue to advertise. That ad is running and will be up into filled. There were 7 other school nursing positions that were open when we posted the ad a week ago. We're still hopeful that something will come out of that ad, but we do have something in place in a long-term sub as we stand. And
does the board have any questions or comments on that?
And I think that's it at this time for personnel.
Okay, thank you. No questions or comments from the board. The CIP update, please. Capital Improvements Subcommittee.
Yep, so we just had another meeting this week, and we met with EEI and Mike Davey, and speak up louder. We were talking about what we're going to do next with the projects for the school, with how we're going to treat the ESTRA money, how we're going to treat the biomass money, how the best ways to use that could potentially look. We also reviewed some of the numbers, if we brought the same exact building forward again next year. And believe it or not, we were pretty surprised that they kept it within 10%, so that was nice. And we're also looking at a plan B so that we could downscale it and just make sure that we don't lose our ESSER money and lose our biomass money, so that we can use that in the best way possible to do some improvements at the school, life safety. We need to replace our heating system up there, and obviously we need HVAC. So hopefully next month, we're gonna come back with those two numbers and the two plans and bring it to the board for review.
So would you like us, what's the best for feedback from the board? Do you want to present those next month and then hear from everybody and just poke and prod and have that discussion?
We're hoping that we can hopefully vote on something next month so that we can start moving forward with it.
So, potentially bringing back, not decided yet. Well, first of all, let's lay the groundwork for anybody who's not familiar with the terms. So that for the ESSER funds was like $435,000, isn't it?
So combined ESSER funds right now, we have $523,000.
523. And then the biomass,
270,000.
So that's grant money available that we're not required to use, but if we want to do a project,
correct. We need
275
to figure out how to use that the best way.
That's quite a bit of money.
It's a lot of money
to start with, and a lot can be done.
What's the time limit on using that?
2 years on the biomass. I'm not sure. Russ, can you help me on the ESSER money?
2023, but I think it's September of 2023.
Okay.
So there's a big chunk of money that we weren't starting with.
There's a lot of regulations with the ESSER money,
right.
So we have to be very careful how we.
But there's potentially with the 500 plus and the 275 for the biomass to start the conversation.
$800,000.
So around 800,000. That was different.
Yeah.
And then I know that you're absorbing this information that you're getting now. Is it reasonable to ask what your instincts are and what feels right to you? Everybody as individuals, but most importantly, the two of you that are running the committee.
Yeah, for me, it's too early to tell. I want to see, we've kind of advised them that we want to see, the plan B and what we'd like in it, which would be the HVAC, the new modular, potentially flip-flopping the parking lot and putting the modular away from, so that we have that safe space for the kids. The stairwell, a bunch of life safety issues, electrical upgrades, roof upgrade, but basically, no addition, just trying to pare everything down to as minimal as we can get, so that we can see what the board has to say about which option they'd like, or possibly have two options on the ballot.
Okay, so
or none. I mean, it's
sure
going to be up to you guys next month after we have some more information.
Yeah, so I was hoping that we would be able to have the conversation tonight, knowing that might prove unrealistic. It doesn't sound like it's super productive until we get that back.
Right.
But 10% on the original, and then the consideration of something smaller or two bonds potentially is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Other insights, things you want to add? Is that enough of a summary? Okay, so when we get into the agenda for next meeting, we'll plan our normal work that we're elected to do, but the priority of the next meeting is you bringing that to us and each of us weighing in on what we feel is the best, ideally reaching consensus by the end of the meeting for the direction we want to go.
And ideally, I guess, we could see something even a couple of days before,
right.
Just have a chance to digest it before.
We've been trying to get the packet out a full week to you.
Right.
As soon as we got the information from the EEI, we put the packet, we'll try to get it the Wednesday before or the Thursday before the meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're struggling with at work, I want us to not struggle with the next meeting. People are too close to things about plasma and water jet and technology and start using acronyms and other things. If I can ask of you as somebody who's coming to the meeting for the first time, just fell out of the sky, landed in the gym, if you guys could both frame what you share with no acronyms and explain any term that might not be accessible, just so that we can have the whole community listen in, and the notes can reflect it. Just because, with respect, having served on the committee for a few years, you can get really used to some terms and positions and some stage gates, where if you could just take a fresh view as a committee and just lay that out for us next month, I think that would be really helpful to citizens new to it and more engaging for folks taking another look.
We're hopeful that Mike will be available so that he can answer, in-depth questions that you have.
Yeah, if he can be here, he does a very nice way of Q&A and follow-up. So just a lot of interest with having 56 or 57%. What, I think it's 57? I don't have it in front of me. 57%, so you get the majority, but not the 60. So people are definitely tuned in to what what we're going to consider. So plan on next month to be the focus of the meeting. Is that reasonable for an update? Anything to add? Okay.
Justin, I just want to make sure, because I know it was on my communication might have been last month. So Randy spoke of the ESSER funds in Terry and the biomass, but we have lost out on our ability to receive building. And so if we had passed the warrant in March, the district would receive $3.187 million, 30% of the overall project. Unfortunately, by not passing that, the town of Allenstown, $30 million was appropriated by the governor. We had communicated all along the governor was going to put money into building aid. We had put that out. We are bound to put out factual information, whether that's enrollment, whether that's information. We're not allowed to try to mislead people with information. So we let people know that we had applied and we were third in line for building aid. We were told by the governor that's coming out. We were told by our reps that it was going to be put into the budget. Winnisquam was first. They bowed out. Allenstown took 19.4. Sunapee needed 3.1. By not passing it, it went to the number 4, Salem. Salem was eligible for 14.6. They took the remaining 11.6. There is no other building aid money in the biennium. The likelihood of the governor putting more money into building aid is unlikely, or slim to none, I should say. So it's really, it's disappointing to know that we would have had, with the biomass and the ESSER money, close to 40% of the $10 million project paid for. So at 10.6 would have been 6.7. Bonding that at one of the lowest interest rates, we thought we were getting under 1%. It's a real tough opportunity that we missed there. I'll just also reference Sunapee may be the only community that on 2 separate occasions when offering building aid from the state of New Hampshire now has not passed a warrant and passed up on that building aid. It happened in 2005, 2006 as well, when the project was put forward for $10 million. They were getting $3 million. They could not pass a warrant. And now last year again, 57%, $10 million, $3 million coming from building aid, unable to pass that. It's unfortunate, but I know folks will say, what are we doing? How are we helping contribute? We filled out an application, we qualify third in the state for building aid. I think that's a nice chunk of money to be able to bring to the table, to put into the pot, to help relieve the taxpayers in this community. And it's a shame that that's disappeared.
Yeah, and just for clarification, the role of the school board is policy, contract negotiations, and ensuring safe space, being a neutral board if things get escalated, neutral judicial function. So some folks that are very vocal in disfavor of the school district says, well, the voters have spoken, you should just stop. And the reality is, for the role of the board, I can only speak for myself, we can all only speak for ourselves, but I know that I was elected to serve in the role as is laid out. So as frustrating as it is to be third worst in the state on the application list for safety and having not passed the bond, not doing something would be, I think, a dereliction of duty to which I was elected. You may all have your own opinions, but I feel we have to continue to find a path forward that will work for more than 57%, but at least 60% of the community. there is a limited number of years that we can use the building as is. So it is our responsibility to bring that forward. So the next meeting, we'll be discussing with the guidance of the leaders of Carrie and Andy of that committee. We need to bring something forward. What is that going to be? That's the discussion that you're waiting for. So moving on from there, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to add a little bit to that, only because I see a few new faces that, weren't part of the dialogue last year. Maybe there's more listening, but the reason why we were going to get a third of our project paid for was because out of the 12 or 13 schools that applied, we ranked third. And in this case, ranking high is bad. Security, life safety, and adequate space, we ranked either at the bottom or near the bottom. And so it wasn't the school board or the school district or anyone local rendering that judgment. It was somebody who came in here from the state of New Hampshire that went around to all 12 or 13 schools applied, and their verdict was, you guys are in bad shape, we're willing to help you out. So I think that's helpful context to consider too. And I certainly support doing our duty and moving forward, and whatever it ends up being, we need to put this in front of the voters again and let them decide.
Other comments from the board?
I guess the only other thing that I'd say is the unique challenge that the five of us have, the five of us have, is trying to discern what the right approach is that we can get enough of the community behind. So recognizing that there's a lot of different opinions in this room, in the community, we've heard them all. And, again, staying true to what our duty is as a school board, our job and our challenge is to land on the right thing for the district, for the community, that we can get the popular vote on. So, while some folks may feel very steadfast in their convictions, whether we should or should not do one plan versus another, understand that we do hear you. But at the end of the day, we have to do what we collectively feel is the right thing to do for the community based on all of the different opinions that we hear, based on what we feel is the right approach at the right price point that's going to be meeting our needs, fit for purpose for the community going forward.
Anything to add? No. Ed?
Just last year, I think.
Go louder.
Last year, I think what we just need to do the next time is to dispel a lot of the negative comments and flyers and stuff that's going out that doesn't have factual information. I think that as a board, that maybe if we could address those, even though we tried very hard, a little better to get more factual information out there, I think we would have easily pushed over that 57%. But scare tactics scare a lot of people. When you fly out information that people don't do the research on, they just read something that's coming out in the flyer and they believe that to be factual when in fact it's not. I think that's something that we have to address.
And there are an amazing amount of time and energy and cost in these slick flyers with intentionally misleading information. It's unfortunate. I think that's in the past. I hope that we can go forward with emphasizing the positive return on a community. That's one of the last unventilated used school buildings in New Hampshire. If the community wants to have K-12, we need to have a safe place for it. I think you said that really well, and I might actually repeat how you said that when I talk to people. That's a really great way of putting it. We have to go for what we believe is the best good for the community. Each thing that we brought forward has gotten more support. We're going to try again. And I appreciate all the time and energy and thought and care you're putting into to get us to this point and what you're going to bring to us next month. So thank you for your service to the town. Let's talk about something kind of fun. Balance the mood. Nature's Classroom Extended Field Trip. You want to give a quick overview for people who aren't familiar with it?
Sure. And John, please feel free to jump in, or Megan. We're probably well versed. But typically we bring our 6th graders every year down to Nature's Classroom. COVID year last year, we are bringing our 6th and 7th graders down to Nature's Classroom. It's a great trip. They go down, they spend a week, they do a lot of experimental and environmental lessons and exercises and learning. This year they're going down to the Cape. I don't know the exact time, I think it's probably in your packet. The reason why it's an informational item as well as the upcoming backpacking trip, you have policy IJOA, which says if something has run for more than 4 years, Sean can approve it, I can approve it, and we just inform the board because it's sort of a long-running, long-standing field trip that goes out of state. So we're making you aware, Nature's Classroom is back on, and in the same breath, backpacking is back on this year. We're excited to get both those trips back up and running.
Yeah, Cub running, the backpacking. So since he updated the community on the business part of it, Mr. Moynihan, Mrs. Reed, want to give a little insight on the impact these trips have on the students?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that in talking to the kids already, they're very excited to be able to do field trips again, and they're very worthwhile. The 6th and 7th, the first one you're seeing right now is that Nature's Classroom. It's a great bonding. The close-up trip, which we weren't able to take last year, that's already been approved previously. We're gonna hopefully next month I'm gonna have the Gettysburg trip. We already had the parent meeting, and it's encouraging to see how many kids are really excited. I thought the numbers, they might be down a little bit because understandably there's still some concerns in going out, but just the huge majority of kids are just still very excited and not only excited but signing up to go on these trips, which are great educational and bonding experiences. Our teachers do a great job. Each year, by the time the kids graduate from here, I'll usually ask how many kids have been able to go on an overnight trip out of Sunapee. And a lot of times they're raising their hands 6, 7, 8 times. They've been able to do that over the course of their career, which is pretty special.
And I've heard a lot of positive feedback from the parents too. I think they're really appreciative that for the kids who have missed Gettysburg for the last 2 years and missed close up last year, that we're giving them the opportunity to play catch up and do a big group and send them off on these things because I think they're great experiences for them.
So we've told them all along. The last couple of years, we've told them we don't know when we're going to go, but we're going to go. and they've been great. And so it's it's nice to be able to uphold that promise.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of kids, it's something they really look forward to. So when they were in 7th grade, they heard about kids going to Washington, D.C. or going to Gettysburg, and they've had their eye on it for a long time. And so it's nice to be able to make it happen and work with parents and students and generous community, supporting fundraisers and making it happen for kids. So thank you.
Yeah. If the community wants to see parents adjusting to saying goodbye to their kids for the first time, those send-offs, the kids tend to be fine. The parents are a hot mess. If you drive by and see a bunch of crying adults in a bus, it's because the kids are ready to launch and the parents aren't so sure. So I appreciate the insight. I was lucky to get to go to be sponsored in high school to go to close-up. What an experience. Mind-blowing for a little kid who hadn't been anywhere. Totally wild. So it's exciting that those balls are rolling and there's going to be some flexibility to maybe not everything will happen when we would like it to, but it's going to happen. So I appreciate the commitment. 2 more. Overview of collective bargaining. I'm thinking a citizen asked about getting some insight, kind of how it works, and I thought that was a great question, chance to educate the community. So I'm going to look to you for just a quick insight. We can add color. The last 3 years ago, Ed and I were the board reps. This year it'll be Ed and Carrie, so you can speak to that. But if you want to just give the business side of it so people are informed.
Sure. Stay about 30,000 feet if I can. Under New Hampshire Public Employment Labor Relations, we have the right under RSA 273A, Public Employment Labor Relations Act, to enter into negotiations with a identified union, if you will. The school board has appointed 2 members. This year it is Carrie and Ed. The STA is a member of NEA, the National Educators Association, which is a union, a national union. They will have a team that they will bring to the table. Kelly and I are there representing